Hi guys, and welcome to Escape with Watch Reviews. My name is Steve, and today we're going to be reviewing the Welly Merk, or now under the brand name WM Watches, model number WM157. I was sent this watch for free. I don't have to send the watch back, but no matter how I get a watch for a review, you'll always get my honest opinion on this channel. And if by the end of this review you do want to pick one of these up, I will be leaving a link down in the video description. That is an affiliate link, so if you use that link, you're not going to pay any extra. It'll just earn a little bit of commission for this channel, and it'll help keep it running. The retail price for this watch is $110 US. That's before any taxes, sales, or coupons. I have seen them participate in some of the sales, so if you are patient, you can get a little bit of savings on this watch. The watch comes in two different versions. It's the same watch. One is just PVD coated in black, while the other one is a stainless steel. The watch case is made of 316L stainless steel. It has a push-pull crown, a screw-down case back, 100 meters of claimed water resistance, and the watch is powered by the Miyota 8215 automatic movement. So this is my first experience with the Welly Merk brand, or WM Watches brand. They are going to change their name, or are in the process of changing their name at the moment. So yeah, that's why you'll see me bounce back and forth between Welly Merk and WM Watches. I think all watches going forward, once they sell out of their Welly Merk stock, will just be WM Watches. So yeah, they wanted to hear some opinions of reviewers, see how they can improve their watches. They seem to be pretty receptive to feedback. So yeah, this is the perfect place for them. So I say grab a drink and let's dive in. But before we do, a quick wrist check today, wearing the Watch Dives 1682. Just reviewed that one, and it's right up here. All right, let's talk about the dimensions. We have a bezel diameter of 42.5 millimeters. All the way across the case, it's 43.5 millimeters. Case thickness of 12.8 millimeters. 22 millimeter lug width. A lug to lug of 49.1 millimeters. And with the protruding male end links, we have a total length of 53.3 millimeters. And sized up for my 7.5 inch wrist with one link removed. Weighs about 155 grams. So this watch is a little bit on the larger side, 42.5 at 49 lug to lug and 53 total length. It's got some heft to it, it's got some beef to it, but I think they did a really good job with the case. You can see here it's a nice thin looking mid case with nice turn down, little turn down to the lugs there. It wears very nice and very comfortable on wrist. There's not any sharp edges or anything like that on it. So yeah, I do like the way that this watch wears. So I'm going to go outside right now and throw it on my wrist for you. And here we are on my 7.5 inch wrist, and as you can tell, I can definitely pull this off. If you like a bigger watch with some more wrist presence, this one's going to be fine for you, I think. It's got nice curve down to the lugs there. I don't know if you guys can even see it, but it does hug the wrist nicely, and it's nice and soft on wrist. I don't feel anything digging into the wrist or anything like that. So yeah, overall, pretty happy with the way this watch wears for its size. It's definitely manageable for a wrist my size. So yeah, if you guys are kind of similar wristed, you'll be all right. And popping out into a little bit more direct sunlight, you can see there's the dial. It kind of does get a little bit washed out, as you can see there, but it's still legible in my opinion. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of polishing going on here. I did get a pretty decent fitment on that bracelet as well, so yeah, it's not too bad. But yeah, I like the way that it wears. I like the way that it looks, for sure. Alright, let's go throw it on some straps and let's get back to this review. And here we are on a dark brown leather strap. I think the dark brown and the black case look really good together. This is off of a St. Martin. It's not one that you can buy separately, sadly, but it just gives you an idea of what a brown leather strap will look like on this thing. I actually think it looks pretty darn good. And here we are on just a black textured rubber strap, and I think that looks awesome. This is how I would be rocking this watch if I was going to keep it. This is how I would wear it all the time, I think. I just think that looks really good. And here we are on a nylon strap. This is just a single pass nylon strap in like army green. I think the PVD black and the army green always looks good. You can still see, I mean, it wears perfectly fine still. So yeah, really happy with the case thickness on this thing. I think they did a pretty good job with it. And here we are on an orange silicone band. I think that looks pretty good, bringing out the accents on the dial and on the bezel. Really thin pass-through silicone strap. But yeah, I think it looks really cool like this. What do you guys think? And here we are lastly on a typical nylon strap, black, obviously not matching hardware, but I still think that looks pretty good. There's 2 layers underneath the watch there, and it still wears nice and comfortable. So yeah, I do like the look of this one too. Just kind of adds to that rugged look of it. So yeah, this thing's kind of a strap monster now that I think about it. It looks awesome. I say we go right back inside and let's get back to this review. So let's talk about the case finishing. So the case finishing on this watch is fully brushed. You can see you have a brushed bezel here, circular brushing on the bezel there, white markers. We'll talk about the bezel action here in just a moment. On the case sides here, you can see, again, horizontally brushed. You have this kind of odd, it's not a polished surface, but it's not a brushed surface either. I don't even know how they did that or what that would be called. Really interesting. But nicely done, I think. On the tops of the lugs here, you have a vertical brushing. I think the case finishing on this looks pretty good. It's hard to tell with a PVD black watch how good case finishing is. But from what I can see here, it looks nice. All these edges are nicely rounded off. There's no real sharp edges on it at all. Flipping it over to the crown side here, you can see dual crowns. You have this kind of polished black crown here with like a snowflake or a star logo on it. And then you have the WM logo on the actual push-pull crown here. Yeah, so this one here operates the inner bezel. It's just a bidirectional winding or bidirectional turning bezel, smooth. There's no clicks or anything like that, but nicely done and a good resistance too. I haven't accidentally bumped it or anything like that. So yeah, I think the internal bezel looks pretty cool. It's a compass bezel. I'm not really sure how to use that thing. Not sure why I would use that thing. Not too adventurous, but it does really look cool. And then flipping it over to the case back here, you do have a display case back. I'll pop it up right here if it is sapphire or not. But a steel case back there, simple notches to get a tool into, a little spec sheet around the outside. Everything is done fine. I've got no issues with that at all. Feels nice and rounded and everything like that. So yeah, there's no real sharp edges on it. That's what I'm getting from it, and that's something that I really do like. It's a nice soft case, and I think it feels great on wrist. So let's talk about the bezel on this thing. So like I mentioned earlier, it's just a steel bezel, circular brushing on the top. You get this really wide and notchy grip on it. It does look pretty rugged. It's got plenty of grip on it because they're pretty deep. Yeah, I've got really no issues with the grip on this at all. The action, it's pretty light. I haven't accidentally bumped the bezel yet, but it is a little bit lighter than I would like it to be. It's a 120 click unidirectional bezel. You can see here, we're locked in place. We're not moving around or anything like that. So the bezel is actually pretty decent on it. I'll let you listen to it here. Pretty solid clicks. They do sound a little light. And like I mentioned, the resistance is a little light as well. Alignment seems to be pretty good. So yeah, overall, I don't have too much to complain about with the bezel. It could just be a little bit more stiff, but yeah, it's really not that bad as it is. All right, so let's talk about the crystal on this thing. First, we will test it for sapphire. See, there it is, sapphire. So it is a flat piece of sapphire crystal, as you can see here, just dead flat. There's no anti-reflective coating. There's no real chamfer around the edge. Maybe just a little tiny chamfer around the edge, but for the most part, it's just a dead flat, simple piece of crystal. It is sapphire, which is nice to see. I don't feel like flat sapphires need AR coating, but it would have been nice to have some on here, but it is what it is, and yeah, it's actually not a horrible crystal. All right, getting in, we're going to talk about the dial on this thing. So the dial is a forged carbon dial. I don't know if it's really forged carbon. I can't tell. I've never had one before, so I'm not really sure. It looks pretty cool, I'll say that. But yeah, I'm not really sure if it's actually forged carbon or not. Outside of that, you have a bidirectional rotating bezel, which I talked about in the case section. Nicely done. I think it looks pretty cool. The dial itself does have applied indices at all the hour markers except 3 o'clock, which it has a simple date cut out there. Sorry about the camera work here. Everything is done pretty good. It has very strong Christopher Ward vibes. I like the pop of orange on the second hand there. Orange down here for the depth rating as well. I think the dial is laid out nicely. The hands are nicely sized. Everything is applied nice and straight. I wouldn't consider it like super high quality indices or anything like that. It didn't stand out to me as being special. So yeah, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just nothing spectacular. I think the hands are done pretty well though. I will say the Welly Merk branding, I don't mind personally, but they're going to change that. But yeah, I just like the way that it looks. I think they did a pretty good job on the dial on this thing. It's definitely interesting, and the texture or the color on the dial, it just looks really cool. I like what they did with it. However, for being such a rugged looking watch, you expect this watch to have pretty darn good lume. Well, I'm going to pop up a lume shot here. You can see it against a couple other watches in the collection, and the lume on this watch is really, really disappointing. I was expecting it to be pretty good, but it's definitely not. It's like on that Pagani design level. It's just really, really bad. You can see it just gets blown away by these other two watches, and they're really priced in the same price range or the price bracket as this one is. So yeah, a little disappointed, actually very disappointed in the lume in this watch. All right, so let's talk about the movement and the crown in this thing. So the movement is the Miyota 8215 automatic movement, as you can see there through the display case back. Sorry, it's trying to focus. Yeah, not my favorite movement. It's really old technology, but they are robust, they are reliable, they are accurate. Here's how this one has been running. Can't really complain about that. Nice and solid. Yeah, the movements are, you know, what you would expect. If you've had a Miyota in the past, it's that nice smooth hand winding here. In this first position, you pull the crown out. You do have a quick set date there, jumping around. You pull it out to the third position. This one does hack, which is nice to see. And this is where you set your time. Everything functions as it should. You get the kind of funny little second hand hopping around. Yeah, it's just the nuances of the old technology movement, but they've been around forever. They're going to last forever, and they're fine. So yeah, and it's just a push-pull crown, so you don't have to worry about cross-threading screws or anything like that. So yeah, no big deal there. And yeah, I think it's fine. I got no major complaints with the movement. All right, so let's talk about the bracelet on this thing. So the bracelet is a 3-link bracelet. It's 22 millimeters, and it tapers down to 20 millimeters to a butterfly clasp, which we'll talk about here in just a second. You can see the finishing here, nothing spectacular. It kind of picks up fingerprints all over the place. It's a vertical brushing. They are solid links and solid end link. They have push pins here for sizing. I didn't have any problems removing them. Sometimes on these PVD watches, it's a little hard to get these pins out, but I had no such issue with it. The bottom edge of this bracelet is a little bit sharp. I would wish they would kind of knock that down a little bit. The fluidity of the bracelet seems to be okay. I've got no major complaints with that. It's conformed to my wrist nicely. It's a pretty low profile bracelet, which you can see there. Just something to note. It doesn't really make much of a difference. The end links, nice and solid in there. I can see some gaps in the end links. Maybe not. I thought I could. Yeah, this one here, there's a little bit of a gap here in the end link, but it still fits to the case nice and tight. Male protruding end links, that's going to turn a lot of people off, I think, just because it's already a pretty long watch, and then you throw on the male end links, and it's 53 plus millimeters. So that's gonna take this out of contention for quite a lot of people, I think. So yeah, it's an interesting watch, or an interesting bracelet. It's nothing fancy. The tolerances are pretty bad on it. It feels a little jangly, so it's not anything that I would want to wear on. So yeah, I would replace this with a black rubber strap on day one personally, mostly because butterfly clasp. It's just a standard butterfly clasp. It opens and closes just fine. I've got no issues with that, but it's just a butterfly clasp, and there's some play in it, and there's no micro adjust, and there's no half links either, and they're not really short links. So getting a fitment on this thing that's going to work for you is going to be tough. So yeah, that's just something that I don't like, period. So yeah, that's something that they need to change. So there you go, guys. That is the Welly Merk, or WM watches, WM157. It's a pretty rugged looking tool watch. I do like the black and the orange and the carbon. It's really cool looking. The dual crowns are awesome. It's got a rotating bezel to time things. It's got a compass on the inside so that you can somehow use that. Someone explain down below how the heck that works. But yeah, it's really, actually, I like the case shape on it. I think it's awesome. I like the idea behind this watch. I think it's nice. The bracelet I do not like at all. A black nylon strap or a black rubber strap would be my option. The crystal is fine. The lume is really poor, and the movement is not my favorite. So I think for $110 it would be a pass for me, but there's really not a whole lot out there that kind of looks like this or has the functions of this. So I think you're paying a little extra just because of that. But yeah, I do like the dial on this thing, and I like the overall visuals of it. So if they could just update things and tweak things here and there, I think they could have a winner on their hands. So yeah, that's kind of the thoughts for me. It's not a bad watch at all. but it's just not worth $100 or $110 that they're asking for it, in my opinion. There's some better value out there, but definitely if you like this look, I think you're going to be happy with the watch overall. It's not a bad watch at all. So yeah, I think that's it for me. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.